The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
you're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is today, whatever today it is that day. And that's all I can tell you about it. Thank you for joining us tonight. There is I really wish this was just the kind of show I could just tell you about how my day was, but maybe some other time. I'll be joined later on in the show by Alex Law. He is the dynamic young man he's running a dynamic campaign out of New Jersey. He's going to be joining us later as soon as I can get this link over to him and get him in the room. He's going to be talking about his race and why it's so important that he wins. I really want to drill down on his race and his plan, his how we're going to get it done, because it is the campaign finance. Is one of the biggest things, one of the biggest hurdles, one of the biggest corruptors, and he's running a great race with low amounts of money, very small amount of money, and he's doing a phenomenal job. So when he gets in the room, we'll definitely speak with him. We'll also be working on talking about a couple of things that came up today with Black Lives Matter and the CBC Pact. Also want to talk about just some stuff. The phone lines are open, 857-600-0518. New York, City of Dreams, State, Empire State, went to Hillary Clinton last night by a staggering margin. I think it was at the final count was 16 points for Hillary Clinton. The delegate spread is not as dramatic as everyone is trying to make it sound. Bernie Sanders still picked up over 100 delegates last night, and he's, it's a difficult road ahead. It's been difficult the entire time, but Sanders still has a route. There are a lot of people celebrating. They're going to have a problem here. Let's say Sanders doesn't win this. Let's say it doesn't get any easier and he actually has to concede. Hillary Clinton's team is going to have a major problem on their hand because I just don't see any road to quote unquote party unity, considering the manner in which they've swift boated Bernie Sanders. They've manipulated this race with smear campaigns. They've used tactics that are just really seriously undermining the very basics of progressivism. It's pretty bad, and I'm just curious as to how this will play out, particularly with the celebrations. I don't know. I understand celebrating your victory. I understand. No problem with that. But what I don't understand or can't imagine if they are calculating is the manner in which they are treating the people in this race. This is a very personal race. This is a very personal race, and people take this personally. And so you can't go with a scorched earth policy and actually think people are going to give you the time of day after the fact. It doesn't work like that. All right, that's fixed. Had to fix something. So I want to talk about that a little bit. What route does he have? What road does he have? Pennsylvania is coming up next. There's some other important states. Oh, every state is important. So there's some states coming up where he has a better chance of winning. It was a hard night. That's all I can tell you. It was a hard night, and I know you know that. It was a hard night because you really see how much this is a sport to some people. And you see how much it's all about their quote unquote team winning versus any values or any principles or anything that resembles a political foundation and a political belief system that is worth fighting for. It's all about winning by any means. It's all about doing anything they can to get this victory. And while they do it, their method of doing it this time around Hang on, I got something on my wrist that the host is back in the room. All right. As a means to exist that you get by virtue of the Constitution, that's going to be extended to every other American, every other ideology, every other religion, every other orientation. Everyone is going to be free to live their lives exactly the way they see fit, so long as how we're living is not intruding on the rights of someone else, right? As long as I'm not taking the liberty and life and freedom of someone else, I'm perfectly free to do whatever the hell I want to do. I'm free to be a Christian. I'm free to be an atheist. I'm free to be straight. I'm free to be gay. That is good news to everybody. And the fact that for so long we've allowed America to be based on Christian values, not by virtue of law, but by virtue of custom, that was an imposition on everyone who did not want to live like that. It was convenient for people like me who grew up Christian, and so it didn't bother me that America was ostensibly a Christian nation, even though it wasn't supposed to be, based on the Constitution. It was convenient for me, even though it wasn't on the books. It was like everyone had to live according to our morals code, even though they didn't want to. And that is not constitutional. No one should have to have their rights be predicated on the religious beliefs of someone else.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. If you're hearing his voice, you're hearing the voice of reason.
All right, folks, welcome back. Like I said, it's been one of those days. If I told you everything that happened today, you would be like, it figures. It figures that his internet would crash in the middle of the show tonight, even though I think it's crashed twice in the last 2 years. But it's been one of those days. So it's par for the course. We take a bump and we keep on going. I have Alex Law, who's been in the room. Apparently, he's been in the room for a minute while I was getting my situation squared away. Alex, thanks so much for joining me, my friend. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. I didn't know we were ready to go.
I actually can't hear you on your end. Let me are you muted on your side?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Nope. I see you unmuted yourself. Alex, I don't have any audio for you, but we can. It's like I said, it's one of those days. So I don't know if you want to exit out and come back in and we try your audio again. In the meantime, I will finish off with the original rant that I started. All right. Here's what's going on. 857-600-0518. Give me your calls. What do you feel about New York? How do you feel about our chances for not just Bernie Sanders, but for this progressive movement? As I was saying before my internet went down, I was saying that the treatment that Hillary Clinton and her team, the methods that they're using to win this election are downright despicable, in my opinion. And I think the methods that are being used to win this election are the things that can turn people against her even more than those people who are already against her, right? There's some of you listening who are already knew like 6 months ago that you were never going to support, what's the hashtag, never Hillary, right? But I think it's the methodology. I think it's the smear campaigns. I think it's the David Brock tactics that really is driving a lot of other people away. And the win last night in New York, that on top of the 120,000 people who were disenfranchised in Brooklyn, all those things are adding up for a very difficult road ahead for Democrats in general. Now, I want to take a chance and risk to see if I can hear Alex at this point. Alex, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Alex, I still have nothing for you. And this, I tell you what we can do, Alex, better than that. Why don't you just call in? You can keep your camera on and call in 857-600.
Wait. Can you hear me? I see the noise.
Okay, you can try that too. I can't hear you. I see that you're trying something.
No, nothing.
But, if you want to call in.
Oh, okay.
You can call in and then we can do the audio via your cell phone. (857-600-0518). I'm going to throw it in our chat room here. Yep. There you go, right there in our chat. Here we go. All right. We're doing this a combination of ways here. There we go, Alex. I see you. And Alex, I hear you now.
All right.
All right. It's just one of those days.
It is. It is. How's it going, man?
It is going well. This campaign has been it's been taken off even more than last time we talked. Almost every single day, we're doing 2 and 3 speeches. I just came from one where I was speaking to a firemen's union. Our message is really starting to resonate extremely well with the community here.
That's excellent, man. Tell us. I wanted you to come. You came on at a perfect time, right? Let's forget about all the technical difficulties we had, because this conversation with you is really timely, because there has to be a future for progressive movements that is able to circumvent big money and able to fight with smaller amounts of money. So tell us how your grassroots movement is coming along financially, and how you're multiplying the effect of your small amount of money that you've raised.
Okay, yeah. So in our district, we just had, across the country, there was April filing. So we know how much all the congressional people have been raising so far and how much they've been spending. So my opponent has spent $591,000 on what? I have no idea. It really hasn't done a whole heck of a lot. We spent about $40,000, and the best estimate I can give you is that we've had, with our $40,000, roughly 3 to 4 times the amount of impact that he's had for his almost $600,000. So he'd have to spend about $2 million to get the same kind of impact that we're getting out of our $40,000 to $50,000, and that's because of the
Cutting edge targeting that we're doing. That's because of the incredible amount of volunteers that we're bringing in. And it's also because, quite honestly, our message, it just wins. Every person we talk to, every door we knock on, every speech that I give, people agree with what we're doing.
What are you? What's the polling looking like coming out of there?
Well, typically in congressional primaries, there is usually no external independent polling. The Norcross campaign, if you look at their expenditures, has spent almost $100,000 over the last 6 weeks on polling to figure out why we're doing so well. And when all they had to do was go and look at one of our pieces of literature, and it would have told them very easily why we're doing well. Their message is full of, corruption, cronyism, graft, voting with Republicans, working with Chris Christie, taking over $10,000 from the Trump family. And ours has progressive, exciting ideas that people are believing in.
And so this is, and you're saying he's working with Christie, he's working with Trump, relationships with Trump, but this isn't a Republican, this is a Democrat.
Yes.
This is a Democrat, and he's personifying, or he's embodying some of the very things that most people are saying are symptoms of the bigger problem: money in politics and crony capitalism. And so you're saying just merely the fact that you guys, the type of campaign that you're running, you're leveraging $40,000 up against his $600,000. I know you don't have any polling, but what type of feedback are you getting on the streets, on the grounds? How big is your database growing, your mailing list? What percentage, what is that looking like? What indications do you have that you're in a good position as this candidate?
Well, like we've discussed before, there's 174,000 Democrats in my district. We need only about 15,000 votes to win. Now, I'm not advocating that our model would work everywhere, especially not in a general election, but in this primary election where we need 15,000 votes to win, this kind of extremely targeted, extremely high impact, high frequency voting model that we put together is working very well. Let me give you an example. This last weekend, right, we spent, maybe $400, but we had 40 volunteers come in. And they knocked on doors with me. We covered 3,000 doors in one of the biggest towns in our district. Every high-frequency Democratic door in that town we hit over the course of 2 days. 3,000 doors, almost 5,000 Democrats. We did that for $400.
Wow.
Now, if the Norcross group was spending that, it would be thousands.
I'm sorry. Start that again. Not even start it again. 3,000 doors, 40 volunteers, and $400. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah. I mean, and some of that cost was just food. Making sure we had donuts and coffee for our volunteers and transporting people around and stuff like that. Our materials are not all that expensive. We have wonderful literature. We have some great postcards. We have some innovative folding mailers, all that kind of good stuff. But since we're just taking actual people who are giving their time up on their Saturday, on their Sunday to go out and knock on doors, to volunteer, to use the materials that we get in bulk for very little money because of the great design work that we're doing, the good relationships with printers that we have. For very little money, we're able to impact thousands and thousands of voters.
Yeah, man. I've canvassed before, and I have I know how far 20 volunteers got, and to think about 40 volunteers making it to 3,000 doors, that is something that is beyond commendable. That's actually unbelievable.
And what's very interesting, right, about our canvassing is most canvassing is paid, which
Right.
there's nothing wrong with paid canvassing, but paid canvassers are going to be at best 1/4 as effective as volunteer canvassers. Let me tell you why. No matter your education level, no matter your socioeconomic level, all people have an innate ability to tell when you are full of shit when you come to their door. And that's just a human ability. So when someone comes and they're volunteering and they're there because of their passion, even if they're not the most articulate person, even if they don't have their points super sharp down,
Right.
what people will remember is what we make them feel, that the values in this election are what is driving it, that Norcross has a different set of values than you, and Alex has the same set. And that passion for coming out and volunteering and doing that, it comes through and it resonates with people.
This is an important race to me. This is an important race because the model that you're making. There's a lot of people who are understandably a little down because of New York yesterday, and I'm trying to help put the emphasis on not just what's going to happen in Pennsylvania, but what's going to happen after the primaries, what's going to happen after this election. And one of the things that has to happen is there has to be a model. There has to be a very strong model that shows how small amounts of money can be leveraged for maximum impact. And what you're doing is really embodying that. So you said something on the first time you came in, you said this model is great, but you have to win for it to be validated. So what do you need? How do you win this?
Well, first I want to say something that I think is very important. I think for Bernie Sanders supporters, myself, obviously I'm a huge Bernie Sanders supporter here. There are so many rallies, there are so many marches where tens of thousands of people, hundreds of people, whatever, are getting together to beat their chest and show we support Bernie Sanders, we're against the system. Doesn't this feel good? And yes, it does feel good. But what people need to realize is that politics isn't about making ourselves feel good. It's about making sure that we do good for our communities. And while rallies can be a great place to have fun and connect with other like-minded people, the reality is Sanders' campaign, in my opinion, has not done a good job in the same way that Barack Obama did in 2008 and in 2012 to take that amazing progressive energy that are at the rallies and converting them into local, organized, grassroots engagement. They've done very good with phone calls, but phone calls are like what I consider like the artillery fire that lays the groundwork for ground troops to come in and take care of business.
Right.
And I don't think that has happened in an effective way with Bernie Sanders' campaign. I love Bernie.
Yeah.
And it's not anything against him. They've been doing the very best that they can. I don't think that they necessarily expected to be in this position with so much money, so much support, so quickly like they have been. And when they've been able to sort of surge certain states that are smaller geographically, they've been able to get that done. But I think there is a huge challenge for progressives, for all of us to realize that we need to turn that energy from rallies that feel good. Yes, we're holding signs. People are honking for us. That's great. And we need to turn that into the hard work, the not so fun work of being out there when it's 80 degrees or when it's 40 degrees and knocking on doors and having real conversations with people. Because imagine if 20,000 people that showed up in Prospect Park to hear Bernie Sanders, imagine if those 20,000 people spent 2 hours there, went and knocked on doors for 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
Could have swung the whole election.
Yeah, no, that is the damn right, man. That's exactly, because when you said 40 people knocked on 3,000 doors, imagine what even just 5,000 of those people knocking on doors could have done and could have leveraged. So it's the energy, it's the passion, but you're exuding a level of passion that made me want to get you back on the show as much as I could, because as you speak, people can connect with that. And so it's a combination that we have to do, man. And I think your motto is perfect. And I think you need to, first of all, you need to win, but then we need you to package that up so that it can be leveraged over and over again, state by state, at least in the primary level. I know on a general election level, it's going to be something totally different. But at this point in this juncture, again, I want to ask the same question again. What does Alex Law need to help you get over this hump and win?
Well, right now, first and foremost, the thing that we always need more of is more people on the ground knocking on doors with us. Every single weekend, we train new volunteers. We go out, we knock on doors, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 of us, whatever it might be. More of that. We want more in-person conversations whenever possible. So if you live in the area, you want to learn how this works so you can go do it wherever you're from. We'll train you. You come out for one day, you go back and do it wherever you're from. That's fine. But, you know, I know your audience spread out all over the place. Any contributions that can come in, all of those dollars go directly towards making sure our volunteers have what they need on the ground, making sure our extremely targeted, extremely specific mailers that we do as efficiently as possible can go out so that we can reach enough people, because that's a big, important part of our process. And you can also obviously make phone calls for us on callsforalex.com. Anywhere in the country, you can be a part of this grassroots movement here in South Jersey. You can make phone calls, and I would encourage you. You can make 10 calls a week just during the commercials of your favorite TV show. Just that.
Yeah.
You watch. I'm sure everyone watches 4, 5, 6 shows. Pick one show, and during the commercials of that show every week, if you make calls for us, you'll be a part of your democracy. You'll be part of making sure we win this election and can bring this model to progressives all across the country and make sure that everyone has the ability, the know-how, and the plan in place so that you can take your progressive energy and the policies that you believe in and make them a reality where you're from.
Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, and Alex, I'm not saying this because you have to go. You're free to stay on and talk about some more stuff with me, but the passion that you're speaking with, man, this is Alex Law, ladies and gentlemen. And I want you guys to not only know his name and know what he's running for, but I want you to help him win. If you go to his platform, go to his website, check out his platform. We've talked about his platform extensively, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it more. But tonight, I want this to be about, we need this model, because some of the best candidates out there are people who can't raise $500,000. They're people who could probably raise $50,000, maybe $100,000, but they have the passion like Alex have. They have people willing to work like Alex has, and they have a ground game like Alex has. So, Alex, I want to push as many people as I can to your website because I think we're at that juncture now where we need something to grab onto to replicate. And I absolutely love. I agree with you. I was talking with my co-host Noah about this. About some of that energy that has been used in phone calls. You know, I like that what you said. It's the artillery cover fire, you know, the ground game that could have been leveraged with those thousands and tens of thousands of people. That's something that they may have missed they did miss an opportunity on. And I love to see that you're capitalizing on that with 40 people, 3,000 doors knocked on, total of $400 in expenses. That's something that people who are passionate, that's something that could be replicated. So I want you to get the last word, say anything, tell us where to find you, whatever you want to say, because I really like what you're doing, and I want to support it as much as I can.
Well, and I always appreciate you having me come on to talk about, you know, whatever issues. I'm always happy to come on and answer questions that your audience has or that you have about progressive politics or campaigning or strategy or anything like that. And of course, just so everybody knows, win or lose, we're going to put together the model and we're going to make it public for everyone to view and understand and work with. But I think it will be even more dynamic if we can win, and we do expect to win. But I want to say, because I've had a lot of conversations, my staff included, people that were deflated because of the loss that Bernie Sanders had in New York. And, you know, what do we do as progressives moving forward? Because, you know, I think as realists, we have to look at ourselves and say, you know, is it mathematically possible that there's some way Bernie can win? Yes. At this juncture, is it, you know, a realistic scenario? I have to say probably not. So we're looking at a situation where, you know, we're saying, okay, we'll support Hillary, I guess, if Bernie does eventually lose, you know, because we can't have a President Trump, but it's sort of, you know, going home and taking our ball with us. And what I would say is, number one, it is absolutely vital for our country that we don't have a President Trump. I mean, it is as great as it would be to have a President Sanders, it is equally as horrible if we have a President Trump. So we need to find that energy to make sure that we don't lose our political engagement moving forward. Number two, as we're looking for things and people and campaigns to look towards if eventually Bernie Sanders is not successful, I want to tell everyone there are wonderful, wonderful local candidates. Whether, it's a campaign like mine, which is great, whether it's a guy like Tim Canova, who's a friend who's been doing a great job down in Florida, especially with raising money through grassroots Bernie Sanders style fundraising, whether it's, even state representatives like Christy Matthews, who I think has been on this program. Find someone and get involved, because even if it's not this cycle that your candidate or what you do ends up being a win, getting that experience, getting your legs under you, knocking on that first door, being a part of politics in person, getting hands-on with your democracy, that is going to make you so much more dynamic in the next cycle. It's going to make you so much more dynamic when the next Bernie Sanders is running for president, and you can do even more to make sure that the progressive cause continues to advocate for the policies that we really believe in. So just a message from me personally, as someone who's a huge Bernie Sanders supporter, as someone who's a huge progressive, that, we need to keep our heads in the game, keep our body in the fight, and keep moving forward.
Alex, man, thanks so much for joining me. And it's absolutely my technical difficulties. I don't think there was probably anything wrong with your microphone. It's just one of those nights, man. Matter of fact, since it happened to you, might as well tell you guys now. I've been doing what I do for 3 years at a particular company that shall remain nameless, and never had a single mistake. And today I had 3 crit sits, and two of them were my fault. So it's that kind of day. It's totally my fault. It's that day. But you know what? The good news is we had you on, and I want that model, and we're going to replicate that model. And the best way to validate it is to help you win, Alex. So best of luck, man. Let me know anything I can do to help you out.
I appreciate that. And if you have any specific policy discussions, it doesn't always have to be about me and my campaign. Happy to come on and, contribute in any way I can to your show and your audience. I love what you do here, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Appreciate it. My pleasure, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Law. Alex, what's your URL really quick?
AlexLawForCongress.com. So real easy name, ALEXLAW for Congress.com. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/AlexLawNJ or Twitter at AlexLawNJ.
All right, my man. I'll see you on Twitter. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
857-600-0518. I really like what Alex is doing, and because I can't emphasize this enough, we really need to be able to leverage small dollar figures. Everyone is not going to be able to raise $500,000, and a lot of people won't even get in the race because they don't think they can raise $500,000, and but can you raise $50,000? And do you have the passion and the conviction to not have an easy go campaign, but a boots on the ground campaign, where if you have 50 people and you go and knock on 3,000 doors with 50 people, and to be innovative, right? I like what he's doing. They have the same phone banking software that's the Sanders team has. They have developers volunteering, because they see and they believe. Everybody's not going to have these baked in advantages, but there's some key components to that campaign that I think that we can model, and that we absolutely should model and start replicating across the country. Because for me, I'm going to be honest with you guys, for me, I'm almost not even interested in I'm less and less interested in this campaign as I am what's going to happen on November 7th, November 8th. When everyone is talking about the revolutionaries, everyone's talking about who's going to be a revolutionary. I'm going to know who the real revolutionaries are, not by who, yes, I'm going to say it. Damn it, it's my show. You're not going to prove, one, you don't have anything to prove to me, but since we're talking about who's going to be a revolutionary or not, the people who are revolutionary are going to show up for duty on November 8th whatever the day after the election. Whoever shows up on November 8th for 2020, whoever shows up for November 8th for 2024, whoever shows up after this initial energy has been expended and people are going home, because, you know, as soon as the election is over, people are going to start changing the channels. People are going to stop tuning in. People are going to stop reading articles. People are going to stop engaging, and they're going to pull back, and they're going to allow whoever's president to be president. There's going to be a level of disengagement that naturally occurs, right? This is not a condemnation of a condemnation of anybody. It naturally occurs, but the revolutionaries are going to be the ones who show up the very next day, planning for the next 2 years out, the next 4 years out, the next 8 years out. I want to see those people. And those people who show up on that day, those are the people, if we place the model in their hand, they can run for office on $100,000, on $50,000. He's not running for a local election. He's running for the Congress, the U.S. Congress, right? We take that type of model and that type of passion, and we spread that around with people who are not down and out because their candidate didn't win. Those people are the revolutionaries. Those are the people I'm looking for. Those are the people that I'm going to support. Those are the people that I'm going to push and lend my platform to any chance I get an opportunity to. All right, let me take this phone call. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question? Caller, this is you, 860. You're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and/or question? You're listening to the internet. You should be listening on the phone. Caller, what's your name? Last time, or I got to hang up on you. What's your name, comment, and/or question? 860.
Oh, hey, Ben, this is Christy.
Christy Matthews?
Oh man, the phone quality is so horrible. I don't know why I can barely hear you.
What's on
I was
your mind?
watching the live cast, and I figured I'd call in.
Not a problem. What's going on? What besides insulting my phone quality, Christy? How are you today?
Oh man, I can hardly hear you. I'm doing pretty good though. I got the last part of that. I actually just got back from a protest they had at City Hall here in Bristol because our budgets here in Connecticut are getting slashed right now. For anybody who doesn't know what's going on in Connecticut, our economy has tanked, like, just unbelievably. So they're slashing across the board. Our teachers in Bristol haven't had a raise in the past 3 years, and now they're literally laying off people from 2 schools and trying to shut the schools down, reconsolidate everything. And I actually heard from the president of the teachers union that they're basically trying to segregate children with disabilities. They want to put them in a different building away from all of the other students because, quote unquote, it will save money.
That's wow. Tell me more about that. Are you at that protest now?
I did not hear any of that. I think the phone connection is really bad. If you guys can send me a link, I can actually video in, but I don't know if that's possible right now.
Let's do that. That we'll give that a try. But you know what? Let's do that, Christy. I will send something to you. Not sure what's going on. Again, I'm not even going to worry about the technical difficulties. Matter of fact, hold off on coming into the Hangout because we had technical difficulties with that. Let me finish out these last 19 minutes with just me, because that's working. The camera's working and my microphone is working, and I just want to finish it out without any other technical difficulties. All right, the revolution. This is where we're starting. This is a good place to start and finish. The revolution that everyone is talking about. I've been thinking about this all day long, and the truth of the matter is it is not, it doesn't end. It really is just beginning. There's something that Bernie Sanders has done. And actually, I want to go back a little further before that. It's something that Occupy Wall Street did that a lot of people, even though Occupy Wall Street is not as big and present, as it's just as large, but it's not present like it used to be. Occupy Wall Street actually started something that most people thought Barack Obama was going to start in 2008. Most people thought it was going to be Obama who started this, but it was Occupy Wall Street in 2010 that actually kicked off this revolution that gave room in the national conversation for a Bernie Sanders to show up are to come back, because Bernie Sanders has been here for a very long time, right? Yes, the progressive revolution has been here, but Occupy Wall Street changed the national dialogue, changed the national conversation, and it's just beginning. If you look at the stats from last night in New York, and you see the breakdown for the people between the ages of 18 and 24, and then 24 to I believe 24 to 30, between 18 and 30, they overwhelmingly, like 80% went to Bernie Sanders in the 18 to 24 category, and then 53% went to Bernie Sanders in the up to 30 category. And then it was almost split around the 30 age. And then, of course, as you got older, it completely dropped off the precipice, and they all went to Hillary Clinton. This is a trend that's happening across the country because, and I believe this was Nick last night on the show, he pointed out that millennials have completely rejected what they have been born into. All of that to say, this race for progressivism, shame on us if we let it die if Bernie Sanders doesn't win. If we allow that to be the reason that we disengage, and I'm not, like I said, I'm personally, I almost don't really care about this election anymore because it's about what happens immediately after. Even if Bernie Sanders wins, do you understand? It's completely about what happens next, because if Bernie Sanders wins and we don't replace Congress, then this progressive movement is dead on arrival. So it's not even about getting Bernie Sanders elected and thinking that the revolution has been delivered. That's just the beginning. The day after the election in 2016, that's when the fight really starts. And I'm wondering how many people will still have the energy, will still have that fire in them to actually start planning that day for 2020, for 2024, so that we can actually take and leverage the energy that's present, the revolutionary spirit that's present in the millennials, because you have to understand something. What the DNC is counting on are millennials getting older and getting disillusioned and becoming just like any neoliberal. That's what they're counting on. Because, you know, at one time, these old people who are voting for Hillary Clinton, they probably were revolutionary at one time too. And now they've just completely caved into this paradigm and they've accepted the status quo. But if the progressive movement is not alive and vibrant and present and giving people not only just something to do, but something to conquer and some victories and some wins, then those millennials who are 80% with Bernie Sanders, let me translate that. Those millennials who are 80% with the progressive movement, we can lose them over time too. So my challenge to everyone is, everyone who's disillusioned about last night, I want to actually convey to you that regardless of how this election plays out, you've got to keep that progressive fight going. And not just going, but organizing better and leveraging technology better and leveraging foot soldiers better, leveraging our money better, getting better use out of every tool that we have, because we're fighting against people, and with not just money, but with maniacal tactics that it really took this election. It really took Bernie Sanders taking it on the chin for us to completely dissect all of the shenanigans that they use to suppress progressivism. That's real. It took Bernie Sanders running. It took a white old man to run against a woman for us to completely flesh out all of the identity politics games that were going to be played by quote unquote progressives against real progressives. Bernie Sanders is out there taking it on the chin because we were not adequately prepared to fight back against their games, because we didn't realize the extent to which they were going to pull out the sexism card on crack, right? They pulled out the racism card, and Hillary Clinton's not even a minority. right? Except for being a woman, right? She has white privilege, but she has the luxury of getting this black firewall. We weren't prepared for that black firewall. We weren't prepared for David Brock. We weren't prepared for any of those things. We weren't prepared for her big dollar donor money being used to create a bigger pool of smaller dollar donations so that she can match what Bernie Sanders is doing. We weren't prepared for those games. And the reason we weren't prepared for it was because the same reason some people were not prepared for the primaries in New York. A lot of people were disengaged until the point where it was too late. And the only way progressivism is going to not only beat back against conservatism, but to beat back against the neoliberal economics of the Democratic Party, the only way we're going to leverage that and do that is if we start organizing right now, not for November of 2016, but organizing right now for November of 2018, right now for November of 2020, and November of 2024. Show me the people who are going to show up for duty after this election, and I'll show you the people who are going to change America. That's what we need. That's what we're looking for. And let me just give you an example. Let me give you the example of the identity politics games just run amok. It's so prevalent that it's almost like it's redundant, but it happens every day. So there is everyone knows, or you should know, the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congressional Black Caucus has a PAC, and it's called the CBC PAC. And it is very closely tied to the Congressional Black Caucus. It has been reported and it's come out that they have ties with Big Tobacco. And there's a letter that was sent out from a team of a coalition, rather, of progressive groups, and not just progressive groups, but also groups that don't necessarily identify as progressive, but whether they know it or not, they are progressive. Let me list you the names of the people who addressed the CBC PAC, calling them out on their donors, one of which is Big Tobacco. Black Lives Matter, Color of Change, the Black Alliance for Just Immigration, the Campaign for Media Justice, Black Lives Matter Sacramento, Black Lives Matter Rockland Alliance, Black Lives Matter Bay Area, Black Lives Matter New York City, and Black Lives Matter Tampa Bay. All of these organizations signed on to this letter addressing the fact that the Congressional Black Caucus PAC has large corporate influences, not only from not just from the usual suspects, but even some tobacco companies. Now, I'm setting this up so you can see how ridiculous this election is and has been. You have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 organizations that are not only run by Black people, but have Black in their name that signed onto this petition, onto this letter. Earlier today, somebody who I generally, I like and respect people until they show me and give me reason not to like and respect them. So somebody I generally respect and admire actually tweeted this out. This is from Angela Rye. She is a political consultant and she's on television all the time. She tweeted this out. Efforts by organizations funded by white progressives to malign the CBC PAC because it didn't endorse a candidate who doesn't reflect our values. Hold tight, because sometimes seeing is believing. I want to show it on the screen for you guys. This is Angela Rye. Efforts by organizations funded by white progressives to malign the CBC PAC because it didn't endorse a candidate who doesn't reflect our values. Yeah. All of those organizations doing all of these phenomenal things in our country, but because they had the nerve to call out disgusting sources of funding being pumped into the Congressional Black Caucus PAC. Because they had a nerve to call that out, Angela decides to make this about white progressives and somehow try to shield the CBC PAC from legitimate criticisms by attacking white progressives. And it's so twisted that I'm actually having to take my time just embracing the insanity that here you are, an organization that is set up to represent and to benefit the Black community, taking dollars from organizations that are detrimental to the Black community. And when the Black community calls you out, you blame white progressives. You cannot make this shit up. This is just this is like a microcosm of how ridiculous this 2016 election has become. I think I have another example of how ridiculous this election has become. And I'm pointing these out because I honestly think that we did not realize how crazy these people really are. I think that's what it was. I don't think we realize exactly the level to which they were willing to manipulate identity politics to the point where it is just outright like this. Look at your screen now. These are tweets. Now, the first person, Angela Rice, she has some scope and some influence, right? She has some impact. She has a lot of relationships and is on TV. This guy, he has, Matthew Chapman. I don't really know who he is, but this is just another example, right? Here is Katie Halper. Follow her on Twitter. Always has something good to say. Talking about the condescension and mansplainers from Hillary. And here he is coming in to lecture a woman on whether or not she knows what mansplaining even means. So here Katie is lamenting the fact that there's mansplainers in the Team Hillary. And here comes a man from Team Hillary telling her that she doesn't understand what mansplaining actually means. This is happening every day. I'm almost back on track, guys. I'm almost back on track. I had a lot of stuff to really throw me off today, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it here. It also reminds me of Joe Biden this morning. Joe Biden trying to defend the 94 crime bill essentially says that the crime bill is not the problem. White supremacy, I'm sorry, not white supremacy, but systemic racism is the problem. Not realizing or not caring that the reason the 94 crime bill was so detrimental to Black people was because of systemic racism. You have this campaign, Hillary, they have gone so far in order to help Hillary Clinton get into office that they have allowed white people to lecture Black people about what racism really is. They have men lecturing women about what mansplaining and sexism really is. And they have Black people being lectured by other Black people, ignoring the fact that they're being lectured by Black people and instead pointing and saying it's all because of the white progressives. Were any of you ready? Were any of you ready for this? Were any of you actually intellectually prepared for the tomfoolery that these people were going to bring in this election? And the reason I'm pointing this out, it's because the effectiveness of this narrative against somebody like Bernie Sanders, who's a man and who's white. I can't promise you that the next guy who's going to be the master progressive is going to be a minority woman, vet, disabled, right? We don't know if the next champion of progressivism is going to be like the intersection of all intersections so that identity politics can't be played on them. You know, the only reason Hillary Clinton didn't do this in 2008 is because Obama existed on an intersection that she didn't. He was black. So she could not run these games in 2008. But oh boy, up against an old white Jewish guy, it's like taking candy from a baby. And this narrative is so pervasive that it saturates every single facet of this campaign. No matter whether it's media heads talking about something that Bernie Sanders said, or whether it's media heads pulling on random Twitter users and elevating those random Twitter users that we don't even know if they're real or not, and some of them are real, but elevating them to the point where here is a random Twitter user saying something sexist and he likes Bernie Sanders, therefore all Bernie Sanders supporters are Bernie bros. This is what we've been fighting against this entire election, and we were not prepared for it, and that's part of the reasons we got our ass handed to us. And yes, it's not over. I'm sorry. I've been dissecting this since August. So I mean, I've been performing an autopsy on this since August, since we even began. And it's such an effective tactic that if we don't prepare years in advance to fight back against it, then the only progressive that we could actually run against black neoliberals in particular would have to be like somebody who wins the intersectionality award. I don't want to start piecing together one, but you get the picture. So we got Joe Biden lecturing black people on not complaining about the 94 crime bill, because the 94 crime bill fixed up your communities. The real problem is systemic racism. Then you got Angela Rye, who's defending the CBC PAC, who's been attacked by black organizations who are tired of the type of funding that they're getting, now blaming white people. And you got men out here mansplaining to women that they don't understand what mansplaining is. It's almost too much. It's almost too much for me to even handle. Not for real, but that's kind of how I feel. I'm trying to see if there's something else I wanted to talk about since I'm warming up. Harriet Tubman. Let's talk about this for a moment, and then I'm going to let you guys go. We made it through. We made it through a night of horrific technical difficulties, so we might as well end it while it's hot. Harriet Tubman has replaced Andrew Jackson on the $20 bill, sorta. She is going to be on the front of the $20 bill. I hope that everyone who's listening to me knows who Harriet Tubman is. If not, I want you to go and Google her and learn about her. She was a former slave who freed hundreds of slaves. And she said that if she could have freed more if they knew they were slaves. So there's a great irony of her being on the front of the $20 bill with Andrew Jackson, who was a many things. I'm just trying to see how bad, and I'm going to talk about Andrew Jackson and the reason a lot of people don't take him down from all of the places. But the Trail of Tears, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide, the slaves, just Andrew Jackson has a place in American history that many people should not have. But because he was a president, we refuse to look at him as the horrific person that he really was. And that's true of several presidents, of a lot of presidents. But once you become a president, you become venerated, and people whitewash the things that you really did. And Andrew Jackson is the case in point. So it is insulting to have him on the back of the $20 bill and Harriet Tubman on the front. He should just be completely removed. In so many respects, he should just be completely gone. But a lot of people are celebrating. A lot of people, of course, you have the imbeciles who are doing the bidding of conservatism and white supremacy all wrapped in one. You have Ben Carson going on television saying that perhaps, she shouldn't be on the $20 bill. Harriet Tubman should be on the $2 bill. You can always find a black face who's willing to go on television to do the bidding of corporate masters. You can find any face. I'm sure you can find Hispanic faces to do the same thing, and they do. But the typical outrage ensued. More important to me than the outrage, because that's par for the course. More important to me than the black people that they get on to attack black people, because that's par for the course, is the fact that we in America just are completely incapable of looking at American history soberly and being willing to say that, you know what? When we look at what this person really did, maybe he should not be someone we celebrate. Maybe looking in history, in hindsight, we can see clearly and say Andrew Jackson is not someone who should be on any type of monument where we venerate him. But because we don't do that in America, if it's American, it's automatically pure and it's automatically something that should be celebrated. Right. And I guess if we start doing that, then Jefferson, Washington, the whole crew. Maybe that's why, maybe the reason we can't be honest about one is because if we're honest about one, then we're going to have to be honest about all of them. And that's just too much for America to handle. But the point is that they couldn't take him off of the $20 bill altogether because of so much protest, because of so much outrage. They split the $20 bill between Harriet Tubman and Andrew Jackson, a former slave on the front and a former slave owner on the back. Talk about irony. Little less known as Marian Anderson, Martin Luther King, and Eleanor Roosevelt. They're going to be on the back of the $5 bill with Abraham Lincoln. The reasoning, the rationale behind that is that they are featuring people who did monumental things at the Lincoln Monument. Marian Anderson sang there, Eleanor Roosevelt spoke there, and of course Dr. King. The March on Washington took place there, and there was somebody else. There's another. So there's a 20. There's the $5 bill, and I guess if I Google it real quick, I could tell you, but I guess I'm not going to do that. All right, folks. That was tonight. Listen, I appreciate you guys riding with me through these technical difficulties. It has been crazy. I got home 10 minutes till 9 to find out the internet in my neighborhood was down. So I made some magic happen and got a connection strong enough to run the show. So thank you for hanging out with me on a very technically challenged night, but we made it through. I will see you guys tomorrow night. The Scandinavian Perspective, and I believe there's a new name coming for it. They'll roll that out, and we'll make sure everyone knows what it is. But that starts tomorrow night at 7 p.m. We want you to be here with your bells and whistles on to get a great perspective from Niz Peterson, and definitely be there. And then I'll be back at 9 o'clock tomorrow night. If you like the Benjamin Dixon Show, I want you to go to first, before you go anywhere, I want you to subscribe, like, share, and subscribe. And then if you really like the Benjamin Dixon Show, go over to patreon.com/the BPD Show. That's number one. Also, I had a chance to sit in on David Pakman on yesterday. So after you're done here, I want you to go over there and check out the videos on David Pakman Show. Interact. There's a lot of comments, a lot of funny, some not so funny. But anyway, it's great. It's really good. David, thanks so much for having me. Lewis, it was a blast. I'll probably be going back over there soon to hang out with them a little more. So go over to the David Pakman channel and check out yesterday's show. There's about 7 clips, and we had a blast. Folks, that's all I've got for you. I will see you next time. This is the Benjamin Dixon Show. Motherfucker. If it ain't one. There it is.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Crazy mother.
If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.